For the record, both of my grandparents had gardens in their yards in East Chicago and Savannah. East Chicago, Indiana, and Savannah, Georgia. Country ways are good ways.
Your daddy's parents had the farm, Wisconsin. So again, there have been forward-thinking people who did what they had to do to make a living and life and better life for themselves and their families. And that's the genius of people. Even though we're in this current crisis, and it's just one of the crises. We're in multiple levels of crisis. But even that lets you know, because of the miraculous way we were created, we are able to deal with multiple issues at the same time. And different folks have been given that gift, that idea, that strategy to put into place. We're not like stuck waiting for somebody to figure out, what kind of how? Okay, I got to figure out a vaccine. There are people already at the ready working on that stuff. And that, going back to information, that helps us, knowing that there are people who've been in labs looking at this stuff. They've been trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. I mean, there was something on today about bats and how so many of these viruses are developed, in these bats. And so they're taking that animal apart and trying to figure out what's coming out of it, how to deal with it when it comes, how to perhaps prevent, the whole transmission. There are so many brilliant people at the ready. And let me put a shout out to the number of women and people of color who have come to the forefront as information sharers, whether they were doctors, whether they were government officials, whether they were, educators. I have seen so many women and people of color coming to the forefront and telling us stuff that we needed to hear. And I don't think we would have seen that as much as we are seeing it now if it had not been for this crisis that we're in. So for somebody to go back after this is over, and you're right, the Lord will see us through this, and go back to this whole thing about what women can and cannot do, what people of color can and cannot do. Nope. that ship has sailed, and we are seeing, and our children are seeing every day, people who look like them who are doing fantastic things.
That's true.
That silver lining, seeds are being planted that we don't know what kind of harvest this is going to reap down the road. But I see all kind of blessings. If we just stay the course, keep our heads about us when others are losing theirs and blaming it on other folk, because the finger pointing doesn't help.
No.
I love people like Governor Cuomo who won't take the bait. Now, every now and then he feels the need to speak his mind. I understand it. Sometimes you have to get folks straight. But his whole thing is put the truth out there, put the facts out there. And, I'm not saying he's perfect or anybody. Nobody's perfect. But he has played a vital role in terms of communicating education. And so have others. Some of our politicians, have done a great job of getting information out there. People are hard on her, but I think Miss Pelosi and Mr. Jeffries and, others. And I've seen Republicans, Michael Steele has been out there, speaking truth to power. And, I'm sure I would have disagreed with him on some things in the past, but, he's not drinking the Kool-Aid and he's figuring out we're in a time that's going to call for a different way of doing things, and truth matters. I've heard that coming out of people's mouth. Truth matters. So we can't just have information. We got to spin information. We can't just have spin. And we got to teach our children that. I keep coming back to our kids because they are being impacted, and we're going to have to help them build that resilience they're going to need going forward, because life goes on, and we want them to face life with hope. We don't want them to face life thinking, oh my goodness, what kind of future do I have?
And that's the big part too. So I'm hopeful. That's the thing. And I work every day to stay in that space of hope, because with this crisis comes opportunity, and not opportunity to get over on someone or whatever, but it's an opportunity to reframe, rethink, reposition. One of the biggest issues that were happening for Americans, I can speak as an American, prior to this, was that we were running too fast, too hard, in too many directions. It was so serious in my life that I finally made the decision to go ahead and pull back and left the traditional workforce and started consulting, because I could feel the strain on my body. I could feel like I was rushing toward an early grave. And for what? For what? Not to say that the work I was doing wasn't worthwhile. It was. I wouldn't have engaged in it had I not. But this mentality that you got to push, more and more and more. You got to get more money. You got to get a bigger house. You got to get more influence. You got to do all this more and more. Nothing is ever enough.
Right.
When you're running like that. And with my brother Will, I'd had conversations with him trying to run that rat race in California before they decided to up and move to Italy. And, one of the biggest things he'll say, I think he said it in his interview, was this is a better way to live. People aren't running so much. People spend time with their families. And this virus pandemic has given people the gift of being able to slow down and spend time with their families, spend time with themselves.
God moves in mysterious ways.
Seriously, this is one of the things remember when we ran into the guy, in France. He was like, one thing I don't like about you Americans is that, you work too much. You don't enjoy your lives. That's what stresses us out. So if you think we're being haughty.
Well, your grandparents, on my side, my mother and father were known for walking around holding hands, and just really enjoying being with each other. And it was a love for a lifetime. It truly was.
So they spent their time apart too. Granddaddy had his garden time where he went to go meditate and be with the Lord. Absolutely. Grandmama had her.
Absolutely. And so it does not mean that you melt into the other person. But when we were in Europe, I noticed more people walking around, more couples walking around arm in arm, more families out on Saturdays at the local markets. And we went out to those where we were, what do you call them, antique markets or whatever, but where people were just strolling and spending time out in the open air,
catching up.
Yeah, and when your dad went to a store that was supposed to be open and it was closed because they decided that they want to go home for the afternoon, or you have to shop before 1 and after 4, because between 1 and 4, whatever time is, everything closes down. I can't imagine that happening in this country, but it happens in Europe every day. And I thought to myself, do I really need Walmart open 24/7? Really? Do I really have to be in there every day buying something? And it's a mental exercise one has to do for oneself. So you start with yourself. But I also think that somehow or another, and this goes back to something you said, we put it out there in the atmosphere that one had to achieve, get, accumulate. And if you didn't have this, or you weren't doing that, or you weren't going over there, that somehow or another you were less than. And so in order for me not to have to wear the less than sign, I got to make sure my kid is in this particular school, that I'm driving this particular car, that I'm living in this particular neighborhood, that I'm wearing, this particular kind of outfit. And my hat's off to young people and older who are figuring out that's not the way to live. That's not what matters. Because you can get caught up. And these are good people. They're not bad people. But you can get caught up in what the culture, in your mind, what the culture is saying you need to be doing. I mean, I worked in a school system where the pressure and stress of just doing the job was sending people to early grade, was giving people heart attacks, was stressing people out. And women in particular, because we carry a lot of that stress, and not only with the job, but when we go home, because we tend to be in most cases the caregiver. So the stress never ends, and look like there's more of it piling on all the time because of all these expectations of what we ought to be doing. And so, yes, I admire your brother and your sister, and for the step that they made to step away, to step back, to step away, and figure out, what do we really need. And when you left your quote unquote job to live what I call living your dream, understanding you weren't going to work less hard.
No, I work way more.
Working more, but you made a decision about the quality of life that you want to have. That is huge. That is huge. Now that I've retired, I have time. What a valuable commodity. Thank you, Lord. I have time to think about what I want to do with my life. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I have energy now. I have desires to do things now. And thank the good Lord, I have health, and I have some resources and some ability to be able to go out and pursue some of those things. There is no amount of money price that you can put on that. And the sooner you understand that, the more that you can grab hold of. And not only for yourself, but you can teach that down to your children. Your niece and nephew, my grands, they are learning what's really important. And they're learning to have fun in so many different ways that don't require, an arm and a leg to get there. So I'm really hopeful that out of this is going to come some of that idea that, let's dial it back 1,000. Okay? The baby doesn't have to be reading a book independently by the age of 2.
Oh, can we talk about that?